Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Coffee with Hillary and Les, brought to you by the State of Mind Hypnosis and Training Center, located in the heart of the Kawartha Lakes. This is our almost daily community podcast about the mind and how we all might change it in the most simple and helpful ways. Every day we sit, staring at the lake and sipping our coffee, chatting about hypnosis and how to make those meaningful adjustments to our state of mind. Because nothing's more important than your state of mind.
We're on the line.
I wasn't even looking.
At the line? It's a chilly day this morning.
And that's August Day. It's August, eh?
Yeah, it's almost
August Day.
Almost Christmas.
Canada, eh? From here on to Christmas, hey, it's just all the same, eh?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it was cool. I was out watching meteors last night with a blanket. Mm-hmm. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Streaking across the sky.
I was
sleeping.
Sleeping. I was so tired. I fell asleep so fast. I couldn't believe it when you said you came in at, 11:45? What?
Yeah.
It was like a party night.
Well, it was just really getting started, but they were starting to move behind the trees, so I thought, okay, at least I can say I saw them. Maybe I'll go tonight.
Maybe.
It's neat. It's neat watching them streak across the sky. I saw countless airplanes going by, and I heard the howling of the wolves and the coyotes. They had one dog down the street just going crazy.
Jumping of fish.
Lots of fish splashing. Maybe they're trying to catch the meteors.
That's what came to my mind when you went. Like, they think that maybe they see stars as bugs on the water or something. I don't know. I don't know the life of fish, but...
There weren't enough meteors, I think, to be activating the fish. I think they were just doing what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe they were cold.
Maybe.
Jumping up to get warm. So that's a lot of gibberish about nothing, so let's talk about a topic.
Yeah. So yesterday,
I was looking at Facebook.
You were looking at Facebook?
I was looking at Facebook.
Oh, yes, that's how you got it. That's right.
And, Sarah Jane Riley. Hello, Sarah Jane. SJ. You posted something and it got me thinking, and that got me thinking, and I started sharing it with others, and we ended up going to our Monday morning coffee friends and we talked about it there.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be worth continuing to think about. But she posted a question, and she does that from time to time. And her question was, how do you define your own success? I thought that was really great. And it caused me to read all the comments that she generated for her friends. And it got me thinking about how I would respond to it. And I feel like I have 1 million responses to it. Because there's so many different ways to think about it.
Yeah.
And so we went to coffee in the morning and I asked others what they thought about it.
Yeah.
How do you define your own success? And I think for me, the first idea really is, like she asks it in her question. She says, your own success. Like success for me, she implies, I think, that success for me would be different than it would be for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the case.
Is it?
Well, and it is naturally the case. It's different for everybody.
Is it?
Apparently. I think so, after going around the table yesterday morning. Everyone sort of had a little bit of a different take on it. What I found interesting was some people had more of a definition or a definitive, like, this is how I would feel successful. And then some people had more of like a perspective on success instead of, does that make sense?
Well, yeah.
Like a perspective versus an absolute. Or not sure about that, but
yeah, can there be an absolute?
I think, yeah. I think that there can be an absolute for people. But I do believe that for every person that that bar can keep moving, right? You almost want the bar to keep moving so that you keep working towards things, as long as you're not getting down from not achieving in your mind. I think when it comes to, say, my own success, I think I already see myself as successful, but there's the bar, and I keep reaching and reaching forward, always having things on my plate that would maybe make me feel more successful or something, right? But yeah, it was interesting to hear different people's version of success.
Well, that was the first thing that Brian brought up when we were talking. Brian said, hey, Brian. Brian said that he turns to the root of the word. Now, I don't know what the history of the word is. What is it? What's the word? The etymology of the word. But it comes from the root of go to the next, right? Like things go in succession. And, and then for him, he talked about it sort of symbolizing moving forward. Success is moving forward. It's progress. It's development. And it's neat. Like for me, my immediate reaction, of course, is where does this come from? Where do we get our definitions of success? Is it different for everybody? Is it the same for everybody? I don't think most people would agree that success is the same for everybody. And yet, I think that most people are out there driving towards the same stuff, right? Mm-hmm. They're pushing themselves towards the same kinds of things, possibly different versions, but different versions of the same thing. And I wonder what that is. Like, for me, my immediate reaction, is to try to claim it to be personal. Like, I like the idea that it's personal. I like the idea that somebody else doesn't get to define success for me. I like the idea that I can say no to commonly held views of success. And so I like the idea that it's an individually defined things. But I can't deny that inside of me, there are a whole bunch of socially defined ideas of success. It's hard, when you have people in your life that you love and admire, it's hard to ignore what they hold as success, what they admire. Mm-hmm. I think children are just naturally driven to do the kinds of things that their parents admire. And I think that they reach a point where they are going to actively reject what their parents admire in an attempt to be individuals, be unique. And sometimes, I see people working so hard at their uniqueness, right? And I think, well, should uniqueness be so difficult, right? Should it require so much effort? Isn't it something that should come naturally? So I guess my first idea is, when it comes to success, is says who, right? Is success defined personally? And is success or is success defined by others and the social world that you're part of? how do those two come together? They seem to be combined. But when you watch people try to be, like individual about it, you can see the look on their face that this is not something they think about often, right? Mm-hmm. Their day is not spent driven to what they might call success.
Yeah.
And that might be, one of the first takeaways is that we have to really hold a definition of success for ourselves to be able to work towards it. Right?
Do you think we automatically fall into, if we don't think about that for ourselves, do we automatically fall into society's version of success?
Well, society's pretty confining, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's just money driven. Success is totally about money, fame, think about how we see actors and actresses, that like we see them as the epitome of success. They've made it in the world. They're rich, they're safe, they're secure, they're all over the place. They've made it. But for some, success is just making a difference in people's lives. Mm-hmm. I think that's actually for a lot more people than we think. Making a difference is, and that's why I think we see so many people wanting to be, they're driven to take up volunteer roles or work roles where they're helpful, where they're helping people. And sometimes that comes later in life because we start to think about these ideas of, well, what would be success to me? And then there's a scale of that, right? I've worked with people that think that they need to help 1 million people to feel successful. I was there. I thought I had to help every single person on the earth to feel successful. But it's amazing how many people you help, and then you have that internal feeling of success. It doesn't take much.
So I guess, we ask, how do you define your own success? Sarah Jane asked, how do you define your own success? But I want to know, where does that definition come from? Are you aware of the influences that have created your definition of success? And, is it quantifiable? Is it about an amount of money? Is it about a number of people? Is it about a number of units sold? Is it about the number of likes, the number of follows, the number of subscribers? Like, where is success? Is this podcast a success? How do we define that? We certainly are struggling with sort of putting it out there. We're naturally inclined to think in terms of numbers, right? And some days I feel like, boy, that was a good podcast. That was full of thoughtfulness and full of new thoughts that I just know that anybody who listens to is going to be thinking for the first time. And to me, that's one of the biggest, most successful things that I have done in my life. It's been one of my focuses, really, in so many ways, in almost every part of my various careers, to get people to think differently, to cause people to pause, right? And say, wait a second, am I so sure about that? Mm-hmm. Or is that way I think, is that really helpful to me?
Yeah. Is
there another way of thinking about this that has a better impact, a better motivation? Sometimes we'll do a podcast and I'll think, that was a good one. Boy, oh boy, we were out there on the edge of the way we think and the way people think, and that's going to stretch some minds. And then I'll look at the number of downloads and go, oh, that didn't go very far. So how do I define success? And where does that come from? What kind of influences have you had in your life? What were their definitions of success? And why do you like their definitions of success?
I'm not sure success can be quantified. Well, I'm sure it can be quantified, but I think the root of it is a feeling. I think it's a feeling that you have when you feel like, I can't describe the feeling exactly, but there is a feeling that comes along with, okay, yes, that was a success. I feel successful. I'm good now. But then you go, okay, I'm going to create this new thing to attain. And then you work towards that, and then you get a feeling from that when you attain that.
So in our little hypnosisly defined world, in our little mind models, right? We, as hypnotists, we have models of the mind. All models are wrong, some are helpful. It's that idea that the mind goes through experiences, right? That we are the sum total of our day-to-day moments we call experiences. And we put a lot of value on them in terms of how we predict what comes in our future and, how well things are going for us. And in our model, we break that down to, something happens, an event. Sometimes it's something we do, sometimes it's something others do. Sometimes it's something that just happens around us, that we have absolutely no input or control over, and we're just receiving it. And then we put meaning on it, and that's the big moment. The big moment is the meaning we put on it. And some of these meanings that we put on things are very automatic. They've been really programmed into us. And some of the meanings we put on things, sometimes unique events we haven't experienced before, are really empty of meaning. We get a real opportunity to decide what meaning we're going to put on them. And in those moments, we realize that, nothing means anything except what we decide it means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So these events are going on, and then because of the meaning we place on it, there's an emotional response.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we continuing with that example, we do a podcast that we think is just really, really thoughtful, right? And so the meaning is we've been really helpful today. My meaning, I'm going to talk about me. My meaning is we've been really helpful today. We've really got people thinking today. We're really helping people consider new ways of looking at their life that might be helpful, that might be useful, that might cause them to have a better experience of life, that would change the meaning that they put on things, therefore change the emotion they experience, and therefore change the experience as a whole. And that's the definition. That's the meaning that I've put on that podcast. And then I checked the stats a few days later, and the stats are, people weren't very interested in that topic. People weren't very interested in that particular podcast. And then what does that mean? That meaning that I place on it is going to create an emotion, maybe disappointment, maybe emotions that cause me to think of failure rather than success. Anyway, what I'm really driving at is that it's the meaning we put on things. And success is very much a meaning word. It's a judgment word.
Yeah.
It's a word that has an opposite, success and failure. It's a word that is very subjective. Unless we accept it, totally accept all external definitions of success, then it's really a personal definition of success. And it's very much about self-judgment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think if we're looking at it, how do I say this? Like, if we're not looking at at it from an individual standpoint and my own successes, then we get caught up in the idea that, well, if so-and-so down the road is doing well, that means I'm not successful, right? If my friend is let's say making a lot of money, that means I'm not successful because I'm not where they are, right? And all the way up to actors and actresses, right? Like, they've made it, I haven't made it, right? So we judge ourselves if we're not looking at our own ideas of what the word means. I think we naturally can sometimes fall into that, just judging ourselves constantly for where we are.
And there are people who want a very public life. There are people who want their endeavors to be public, to be out there across many, many people. They want broad-based approval and acceptance for success. But there are many, many people whose success, like, it is natural for us to think of the people that are in the media. When we talk about success, like you mentioned, actors and musicians, and these people who are out there basically putting themselves out into the public, seeking approval, which really, by the sounds of it, is kind of dangerous. But anyway, I'm going to guess that there are more people whose definition of success has nothing to do with others' opinions, others' thoughts, others' acceptance, being public at all. There are people who are just really focused on the immediate, what's in front of them right now, the person who they're doing what they're doing, whatever it is they do, right? For some people, it's just that I'm a good friend. And I have a wonderful circle of friends who see me as really, really worthwhile. And how does that factor into someone's perception of success? Is it always going to be external? It's an old Taoist saying, when I am focused on others' opinions, I am their prisoner. When I am focused on somebody else's approval, I am their prisoner. Right? Is that really good territory to be defining success and failure? That we require others' approval. When we get it, it feels really good. It certainly doesn't hurt to have somebody say, hey, you're a good actor. I want you to do this job for me, and we're going to put this movie out to millions of people. I'm sure that feels really, really wonderful. And where does the actor draw the line to say, well, I'm here to act, and so it's my performance that matters to me? And where does the actor say, it's how I think of my performance that matters to me? Right? And that's, again, we're just focused on that. But what about a nurse, right? What about your local shop owner who owns a curio shop? What about your local teacher teaches grade 1.
Yeah.
Right? How do all these external definitions of success impact them? Is success something to just be disposed of? Does it actually lead to motivation and reward? Does it actually result in positive experiences?
Yeah, I don't know if you can. I've been thinking a lot about this recently, not in the word success so much, but this feeling like, there's things that I want to achieve, and how do I feel if I'm not working towards them, right? Almost like, if we were to use the word success, almost like success is paired with guilt, right?
It's interesting how you can see the connection when you pause, because success and failure are are intricately interwoven into each other. In fact, there's an old quote, and I forget who said it. In every success, there's an element of failure. In every failure, there's an element of success. Treat them all as successes. I remember teaching that one to my students. Like, don't think that everything is absolute and must be, an absolute touchdown, right? Boom, home run. It's got to be a complete and total, barn burner, right? Sometimes each thing is, as Brian said, just a succession, an improvement on the last.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking recently, I'm going through this writing course, and one of the things that they teach you is that your character's going to want things, and you don't quite give them what they want, but you end up giving them what they need. And I thought, and I think this, I don't know how really this is all coming together in my mind about this success, but it's almost like the universe, if you pull back from your life and you look at it in succession, the universe, let's say, has given you not maybe what you want, but what you need, right? And so to your point, if we let go of thinking of things as failures, everything is exactly as it should be. The universe has given us everything that we need, in a sense.
Yeah, well, it's the old Bhagavad Gita story, right, of Arjuna and Krishna. And Arjuna is standing in his chariot, the great general, the great warrior, and Krishna is trying to advise him that he should not be focused on the outcome of his actions, only on the purity of his own motivations and the precision of his own actions. That's what he controls. He does not control outcomes. And as you examine the world, it's hard to tell, when you think about ideas. We have this idea we call the butterfly effect, that some tiny movement, and the movement of a butterfly wing in Brazil changes the weather in China, and these kinds of ideas that we contribute into the great flow in little increments in our own way. I think, big lessons, you talk about, if you could reduce your accomplishments to being completely personal, this is what I'm going to do. Success means you did it. I'm going to do this the best I can. If you approach everything you do, doing it the best you can, or I like to think of things now. I guess I judge myself now this way, but I think I don't need to be so harsh, but, everything I do, did I do it with love? Right? So many of my silly habits fall away when I say, did I do that with love? Or did I just do that because I thought I was being, glib or funny or cute or, somehow a little too self-impressed, self-important? These are reasons why I always come back to ideas of curiosity and creativity. They seem to be the simplest but the most direct ways to do what we feel driven to do. Am I curious about something? Do I want to learn? Do I want to know more? Am I creative? Am I expressing myself? Am I expressing these ideas? Am I expressing the things that I am curious about, that I am engaged in mentally and emotionally? If I can simplify things and not be concerned with the outcome, not be concerned with how other people might receive them, and be completely concerned with doing my best, consistent with my own sense of love, is that a nice replacement for external, extrinsic reward? Will I be satisfied then? I do believe that it's valuable to have your own definition of success. I do think that having your definitions of success be external to you creates a lot of self-judgment, creates a lot of self-chastising and criticism, and lack of self-love.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's got to be there, and I think it's really natural for our world to want to tell us what success is, and people want to say this is my version of success, and they want you to agree with it, because if you agree that my version of success is the right one, then thank God now I'm on the right path. And if you tell me that that's not success, well, that just disturbs my sense of safety. That just disturbs my sense of competence. It shatters my own self-view sometimes when somebody says, "Oh, that's not success." I mean, especially when you've been working so hard at it. So I do think there's value in having your own definition of success. I think SJ is right. I think it's interesting to find out what other people's are, as she did pose the question out there on the Facebook world. In the land of meta.
On the line.
On the line. I think it's good to reduce success to your own judgment, your own evaluation, I think is a better word. It's not good or bad. Evaluate how you've moved forward in succession to the next thing. I think there's value there. But it's up to you, right?
Yeah. And I think it's always, I think I've said this in past podcasts, it's, for me at least, I really love the thought of always having something that I'm working towards, right? Something that keeps me going, right? Something exciting that is in my midst, or something I'm moving ahead with. And I think the secret there is to not attach myself so much to the outcome, attach my ego and myself, my big self, capital S, to the outcome of that scenario. And that's hard. That can be very hard, because you get caught up in the excitement of it all and everything, and then that can be the driving force. But having motivation come from another area, I'm not sure where that area is, but just having that motivation of wanting to attain that, moving towards it, but not attaching myself to it so much so that it's, a detriment to my being if it's not attained, But I think as humans, we always want to have something that we're working towards. We think about, we know someone in their 90s, and they're just always doing something. They've always got something lined up for the evening, and whether it's cards or a buffet or something that they're thinking about coming up that they're going to be doing. And I think that's a good way to move through life.
Well, if this podcast was successful, it caused you to pause and examine your own thoughts. From my perspective, anyway, it's not a desire to tell you how to define success. It's actually an invitation to help you redefine success much more personally, and much less, at least be aware of your programming. Be aware of what programming is impacting the way you ultimately feel about yourself because of how you define success. Feel good about you.
All right. See you later.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and that maybe it helped, even a little. If you have any questions, we would love you to send them along in an email to info@somhypnosis.com. Thank you for being part of the State of Mind community. For more information about hypnosis and the various online or in-person services we provide, please visit our website, www.somhypnosis.com. The link will be in the notes below. While you are there, why don't you book a free 1-hour journey meeting with Hillary or Les to learn more about what hypnosis is and how you might use it to make your life what you want it to be. Bye for now. Talk to you tomorrow.